You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 67. Today, we're talking all about how to take imperfect action, like right now. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is James Wedmore.
And I'm Phoebe Mroczek.
And this is the Mind Your Business podcast, where we talk about everything mindset and otherwise, the internal journey, what it takes to create success from the inside out, being an entrepreneur and a business owner. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have a special episode in store for you today to hopefully kick your butt into gear to take some of that hairy, scary action. But we want to also make sure it's the right action. So we'll get into that stuff today as well, won't we?
We will.
We will. That's right, we will.
This has been just such a fun week for me. And so I know, James, when we were writing back and forth, like, what should the topic of this episode be? And there's so many things that I know you and I want to talk about, but it's just so much more empowering and just inspiring, I think, to be talking about things that are happening in this exact moment. So I have a lot to share. I'm excited to share about my event that happened this week. And I know you have a lot of exciting stuff going on where you are as well.
Yes. So we'll start with you. Very exciting news. You just wrapped up your big event.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Coming back from like the high of doing an event.
I am. I had, so many people after putting it on the podcast. I always think that speaking into this microphone, I forget how many people can actually hear me. And I had people writing me, when's your event? Hey, so when's your event? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't be declaring all of this stuff on the podcast unless I'm prepared to do it. So I am definitely on a high from my event that I hosted. It was 6 of us in Sonoma, California, and it was just such a fun, beautiful, inspiring week. 3 day, well, like 2.5 days of just business and personal exploration. And I am so thrilled. I feel like it couldn't have gone any better.
Yes. Well done. Congratulations. And what I'm hoping we can do is start to take this recent news and events and the lessons of, you playing the game, being on the field here in the arena, getting stuff done, and start to create a conversation around that in relation to the topic that we're bringing up today on the podcast, this imperfect action. So the first thing I want to do is point out and acknowledge you for the fact that we did, if you remember this, we did some like goal setting, vision boarding for you about this time last year. And one of the things that you said that you wanted to do in 2016 was host your own event. And you did it. Do you normally wait until right to the wire to like finish your papers and study for exams? Is that
sort of?
I mean, you got it right in there at the last moment possible. Like,
I snuck it in.
Yeah. Well done. So I'm curious first, can you remember that time about a year ago? Because I know exactly where we were standing. We had my infamous easel out and we're drawing.
Yep.
And the idea and possibility of Phoebe hosting an event came on there. Yep. What was going through your mind at that time, and how far away did that feel for you?
Well, I was literally just going to say it really felt far away. And I was like, okay, I know in my head what I want it to look like, but I have a whole year to do it. So at that time, I was like, oh, no problem. By that time, I'll be ready and I'll be 100% prepared for all of this and nothing's going to go wrong. It's going to be great. So
this is one reason why we're encouraged to put deadlines on things, because this is how the human brain operates, is that, I've got plenty of time. There's no urgency. There's no rush. So I'm good. And then therefore we don't take action. So, and I do want to put you on the spot because a little bit, right? If you don't mind, because there were some things that came up. One was, well, it's getting towards the end of the year. I think I'm going to do it next year. Am I right? Isn't that what happened?
Yes. Unfortunately, that was the conversation that we had.
Take me through that, what your thinking was, and how you actually did finally put your foot down and say, I'm doing this.
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of, like I said, I was just really waiting till I was ready, until I felt like, 100%, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be, the best event I've ever done. And, you and I have hosted events together. And so this was going to be a solo event. And for me, there was just a lot of anxiety around, was I going to attract the right people? Was I going to, all the logistics that go into it. And so the longer I put it off for, the bigger it got. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have this massive event with hundreds of people, even though that's not even what I wanted. But in my head, I was like, I'm just picturing all of these events that I had gone to this year, especially in the last couple months, that it had to be just like theirs. And I got just this real block around, is this actually what I want to do? But that was just the fear coming up. I realized, and I was like, no, it's fine. I will be ready May of 2017. This is going to be great. I called you and was like, no, I'm just going to do it.
I was being a big pain in your butt because I was like, you were explaining it to me very logically, right? When you do that, it's like you're in deep trouble, right? Because it's like, no, that's a much better time, and it gives me way more time to plan, and it just makes sense, and this is a crazy time of year. So you had all the logical reasons as to why you should put it off. And I remember I had to say something to you like, Phoebe, this is just that ego part of you that's trying to keep you safe and does not want you going outside your comfort zone. It's trying to protect you, and it's made up these BS reasons as to why you can't do this event.
Well, yeah. And actually, one thing that you did say, and this was really what lit the fire under my butt, was when you were like, what about the women who are waiting for you to put this event on?
Ooh.
And I was like, crap. I'm like, what about them? And, after that conversation, I had a couple other people that I was kind of on the fence, and some would have let me. Some were like, yeah, you're right. May is a great time. And, their kids aren't out for school. And we were all justifying it. And then there were two other people that were like, yeah, but, it was my coach. And then someone else was like, what about all the people that are waiting for you to show up and create the space for their breakthrough?
Yes.
And I'm like, that's it. You're right. And so I was like, right, I said that I was going to do it. I've put it on the podcast. It's on my vision board. This is something that I really want to accomplish this year. And it's when I really started making it about everybody else and not about me. And so that was really the turning point. And I think I mentioned on one of the last podcasts just that my email copy completely changed when I took the emphasis off of me and my event and look at me, and if it doesn't turn out, then this is what it means about me, into here's what it's going to do for everybody else. And then I had a couple of the women who actually attended, they're like, that Wednesday email, something just felt right. And something just felt different. And so that was the day that I made that change that I got the most applications, because it's just an energy of me, that I actually put into that email. There is so much that I want to talk about, and this is great. So I appreciate you for sharing. In this last piece, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so huge, and it's deserving of another episode, because I've experienced that same thing so many times, where you got this big idea, big goal, and you hold on to it with your mental death grip, right? That's what we're going to call it, right? Were you not squeezing the life out of this idea? I was, for sure.
It better be the way I need it to be, or else. And the harder you hold on to that, the quicker it's going to slip through your grasp. And so the moment Phoebe just let go of it and knew that and trusted and expected it to be the right event for the right people, and it was going to unfold in the right way, that's when everything opened up. That is not something, this is what this podcast is about. Those subtle things make all the difference. And we've seen that with the Inner Circle Mastermind. I've seen that in my launches, with everything. There's this releasing and trusting of, hey, if it's not meant to be, and this is my intention, this is what I'm putting out here, this is my role, and this is how I'm supposed to show up, and this is my commitment, and this is how I serve, and if they're ready, the student will appear. And that takes discipline, or as Vishen Lakhiani would say, blisscipline, but that is what we're getting you to master here. That's huge, right? Everyone's trying to force it and say, I've got to try harder then. And we say no. And that's an example of that. But listen, Phoebe is sharing a great story of taking imperfect action, Now, and we need to define this because we're not saying that her action wasn't perfect. What we're saying is she took action despite her belief or story of it being perfect. And that is the key distinction. And I want to share with you 5 things that we need to do. Maybe more. There might be some more that come up. But 5 things that we can do in order to step out of our comfort zone to take that scary right action. Because that's what this is about. I believe that from what I hear is that, everyone's waiting for it to be perfect. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And so they wait for it to be perfect first. They say, when it's perfect, then I'll do it. And we really make it perfect in the doing of it. It's another example of hashtag backwards. You're going to hear that a lot from me on all of our episodes. I really think people are we're doing it backwards. Okay? So the first thing is that we have to be able to soften perfection. As Phoebe described in this story of what just happened over this past year, where she got to accomplish and experience one of the goals that she created for herself 12 months earlier, is that she saw how this became bigger and bigger and bigger and had to be more perfect and more amazing and more this. And so as the expectation grew, the goal grew, her attachment grew. And then it became not an anthill, but Mount Everest. And then it became impossible to do. So impossible as I'll do it in the future. Or I'll do it tomorrow, right? I'll do it in 4 months, and that never comes. So I think the first thing is to be aware of that, which Phoebe was. So we softened the perfection. And one of the things that I look at, I think when it comes to like the world of launching and doing your promotions and stuff out to the world, I think I see a lot of people who have their great idea for their product, their app, whatever, and they want it to be an instant splash success. I have let go of that so long ago, and I think that's one reason why I'm still here. I think that's one reason why our business keeps growing and we keep experiencing more success is I'm never looking for some home run. I'm looking for consistent base hits. I feel like that is exactly what happened, is I had this vision in my head. Yeah. And like for me, a lot of times when I've had like my biggest breakthroughs, it is this, crying, kind of blubbering, being like, this is my breakthrough. And so I was expecting that to happen for everybody. And it's so funny because in that I felt there was like a kind of like a tiny little like niggle of like just a little bit of disappointment. We had a couple tears here and there and all this, but then I realized now we're 2 days really post event. And since then I've gotten texts from every single one of them being like, this was my big breakthrough. And there were moments where someone's like, well, that's a breakthrough. And it was so cool to be like, oh, okay, that's what your breakthrough looks like. That's funny because that's not what mine looks like. And it was so interesting because that idea of like perfection, it was just in my head, it had become a whole nother animal and it was really intimidating. Yeah. And if I did not hit that, it was not successful. Yeah. And so it's just not being attached to that and being okay with whatever it looks like when it shows up. Absolutely. I love it. So that's the first thing I would encourage you to do. That's something Phoebe had to do. The next thing, which Phoebe also did, I heard from her sharing, is that she created a by when date, a deadline. And, we throw these around so loosely in our lives. We create these deadlines and stuff, and then we don't follow them. And she did try and wiggle her way out of this. And we really started at first. We had to remind her, like, Phoebe, this is what you said you do, so we got to do it. And she did. It also helps to put some skin in the game. That's number 3. Now, Phoebe's fortunate enough to have a platform like a podcast and social media to put it out there. And that's something that if you have that opportunity and you're feeling resistance around that next big thing that's calling your name, that might be something you want to try, is to put that skin in the game, to be held accountable by the public at large, if you will, your followers, right? So that's number 3. And number 4 is to remove all reasons or excuses, to at least identify these reasons that are just reasons and excuses, like Phoebe was sharing. Like, well, it's, not a great time of year and it's not enough time and stuff like that. That you can still produce the result you want despite of that. And number 5, and I think this is most importantly, and this is a big thing that we teach and share, is to make it about the customer or the end user and not yourself. To make it about being of service to them. So those are 5 things. Soften the perfection, the attached perfection vision that you have, and realize that you can grow that the first time it's never going to be perfect. That it's in the doing of it that it will become. You strive for perfection. It will get better. To me, it's the simple discipline and desire to improve. And I'll show you an example of that makes the difference. Like when Phoebe and I did the inner circle, one of the things we did after every meeting, every retreat, we handed a feedback form to all our members. What do you think that communicates to them? It communicates, hey, we care about making this better. No matter where it's at, it's getting better. We're not trying to say this is perfect and we're not doing anything about it. We're saying we have a commitment to improving.
Yeah, and I love, like, we asked these 3 questions, and I actually stole them from Jason from Mastermind Talks, but he asked, what should we start doing, what should we stop doing, and what should we continue doing? And I love those because they're open-ended, and when people see that you're making an effort to improve over time, they know that, especially these women here coming to Sonoma, I was like, let's just address it. Like, this is my first event. I'm so excited. I couldn't be any more excited to have you guys here. Someone flew across from England, which wow. 2 days, I was just so honored. And, I was like, and so now I want you to, like, as we're here and as we're present, like, just keep in mind if you see something that, like, maybe maybe I should do differently next time when you guys come back. Let's get it out there. So I have, like, feedback surveys going to them with a couple questions, and I can't wait to kind of skim through those and really just, like, dig into what could have been done better. And I can't wait to, like, improve it for the next time, which is really exciting.
I love it. 5 things. Soften this perfection. Let go of the attachment to the perfectionism. Create a deadline or a by when. Put skin in the game. Be held accountable by others, right? Let go of all reasons and excuses. And focus on how you're going to be of service. Make it about them. That's how we can step into action with a little bit more confidence and actually go from the desire, the goal, the thing we wrote down 12 months ago that we've been putting off, and get into action a little easier. So this is great, Phoebe. So the whole experience, what else do you have to say and share about going through the roller coaster of wanting to do it feeling so far off and insurmountable, to I think I'm going to do it, to maybe I'm going to put it off, to screw it, I'm doing it, holy cow, this is happening, and then it happened. What else has shown up for you as your own breakthrough?
Yeah, so yesterday I was kind of in the debrief, and I got home, I drove home from Sonoma and was just sitting on the couch, like, journaling everything. Like, what did I think went well, what went badly, what didn't, what could I have improved on, and all this stuff. And I had to really, like, put my pen down and be like, wait a minute, I want to acknowledge myself. And so I think for me, that was a huge breakthrough. I was, throughout those 2 days, a common theme that kept coming up was, you're doing the best you can. Like, you need to, appreciate the present moment and, like, just be really proud of yourself for all that you've accomplished, and stop being so hard on yourself. We're all too hard on ourselves and all this. And that's what I've been kind of instilling into them for 2 days. And then I got home and was like, wait a minute, all these things were like that I was writing down. I didn't even take a moment to appreciate the fact that, like, I just did this all by myself, really exciting, and it was just such a cool moment for me to be like, you know what? I'm going to close my journal for a minute and just, like, sit here and be really, really proud of myself. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest breakthrough that I had, that I tell everybody all these things, take it easy, but yeah, I'm the hardest one on myself. It was almost like a little bit sad how hard I was on myself for, people. I had so many people reaching out to me and being like, how was the event? I'm like, oh my God, it was so awesome. And blah, all these breakthroughs and whatever, doubling their business or what. But it wasn't like, I was so focused on all the things that had happened, as opposed to, like, really taking it in and being like, you know what? I did it. How awesome is that? Yes. So for me, that was probably, I would say, definitely my biggest breakthrough.
Well, I think a big breakthrough for me this year along those same lines has been that your students will learn more from your actions than your words. it's along the same lines of actions speak louder than words, but as being a teacher and a coach and a mentor who wants to share and give and help others, the most effective way that you can ultimately show up is to be the person that they aspire to be, or to be your truest form, of who you are, the best version of yourself. And your students will emulate that. They will be more inspired and impacted by how you show up and your acting, and get more value, life-changing value from that than from your 7-step formulas, your 5 tips for success and stuff like that.
In my presentation, I had something and this is a phrase that I've thought about earlier in the year, and it was, I want to be loved and someday remembered, not for what I do or what I have, but for who I am. And that was just for me, it was such a really cool moment when, the day before I got up to the house and I was, looking around and just planning. I had a whole scavenger hunt laid out for them. It was really fun. And as I was walking around, I kept being I was getting the butterflies. I was getting nervous. And then I just made sure I took a breath. I'm you know what? I have done everything I can up to this point, and all my job, my responsibility to these women is to show up 100% me, and just letting go of everything else. And just really a big theme that came up over the 2.5 days was the idea of trusting and just the knowingness. And so what I kept saying to them is I was I want you to trust that you're going to get exactly what you need out of this event. And it was so funny. They all came in for different reasons, and they all had areas that they wanted to improve on. And it was so funny how that shifted as we were going through. And it was just this trust that, I might not get it today, but the seed has been planted. And in 2 weeks, I fully expect to be getting a whole nother round of text messages, about things that they have accomplished, or, breakthroughs that they've had. And I really feel like this idea of trusting and just really knowing, I deep down, even though I was letting some of that fear kind of bubble up and be oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. To you know what? No, I got this. I totally got this. And I know that I'm here, and these women have been have been attracted to me personally for a reason. And so I operated the entire 2 days. I feel like I was very calm, cool, and collected. It was you know what? No, I got this, and everything's going to happen exactly the way it's supposed to. And so I would say actually more so than the first point that I made, this was for sure my biggest lesson.
Awesome. I love it. Well done, Phoebe.
Thank you.
Well done.
I'm so excited. I feel like a ball of crazy energy.
So when's the next one, or what is next?
So next, I'm just going to be honest, a lot of what I wanted here was I kept saying, I was I can't wait till Thursday. I can't wait till Thursday, which sounds funny because the event was over on Wednesday, but I was I just will know. And that was another little pressure that I put on myself was I'm going to know if I love this or hate this. And I came away. And then once I realized I was being really hard on myself, I was I really love this. I love being able to actually touch people and be yeah, hi, we're real people and we're in this together. And so what's next for me in terms of events specifically is just working really close with people and bringing them in for more events. I think my next one will for sure be back at that amazing house because it was so beautiful. We did a bunch of wine tasting and it was just the most ideal location. So another event maybe at the end of Q1 of 2017.
Love it. I love it. Okay. Fantastic. So I think one of the reasons why we really wanted to bring this up is not just because it's fresh from a recent occurrence from Phoebe, but it's also something that I notice. I see it as something that is plaguing our industry and plaguing entrepreneurs. And every time they talk about how busy and overwhelmed they are, I see evidence of it. And why we wanted to have this conversation with you is to encourage you into action before it's perfect. Because what happens otherwise is we fill our day and our schedule and our lives with the non-essential things. There will always be there, by the way, that are in your comfort zone, that are safe and easy. They don't put you at risk. They don't put you face to face with potential rejection. They could be frustrating, they could be time consuming, they could be confusing, but it's still within your comfort zone. But as they say, the magic all happens just outside your comfort zone. And the step outside Phoebe's comfort zone was what? What was that first action item that drew the line in the sand between comfort zone and the zone of the unknown?
First, scheduling the event, just choosing my dates. And I think actually when I started recording the commercial that we put on the podcast, I was like, wow, this is happening.
Got it. Yeah, so like starting to announce it, starting to choose the dates, letting people know that it's happening. And so what I always encourage people is to get there as quickly as you can. The other stuff is important, right? She's got to create an itinerary. She's got to get a venue. She's got to get all those ducks in a row. But nothing happens until she steps out of her comfort zone. And nothing, it's the same with you, same with all of us. So I want to encourage people to get there quicker, because that's one of the reasons why I feel like we are so overwhelmed and confused is because, and just burnt out, is because entrepreneurs left to their own accord it's just human nature, are going to choose the safest things. And there are plenty of things that you can work on to keep you busy 12 hours a day for the next 365 days that are very comfortable, that don't put you at risk to failure, or they also don't give you the opportunity for success. And that's what's happening. And
when we talk about like the flow state and when a couple of books I've been reading, and they talk about how just outside of your comfort zone, but not too far that it seems like just really kind of crazy, but just that middle bit, that is where you dip into the flow state. I completely felt that when I was there, because I was like, all right, I have no problem talking to people. That I would say is one of my strengths, but actually infusing it with all of the business and the personal. And I was like, okay, like there's nowhere for me to go now. I just have to stand up and I have to perform in a way that, and there was one moment and I was on this, I don't know, kind of tirade soapbox thing about somebody's business. And all of a sudden I stopped talking. I was like, wow, I have no idea what I just said. It just came out. And it was a really cool moment that everyone saw. And they're like, whoa. Like, and that's what it was just like, I was out of my comfort zone, but not too far that I was so fearful that nothing could actually happen. It was just enough where it was like, now I'm in the zone and now I just have to like be present and wait for, and inspiration just will hit you. And it's amazing what happens in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so great.
So now can we shift gears a little bit and hear a little bit more about what you're up to, James?
Yeah.
You've got some really exciting stuff happening.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired. We had a 3-hour webinar today and we're in launch mode. So it's like the one time where I kind of throw my lifestyle of surfing and relaxing out the window. So we're going to launch for my signature program, Business by Design. And that's just been an awesome experience for a lot of reasons. Ironically, the stuff that we're talking about here is the stuff that a lot of people, just from listening and reading what people have to say and where they're at, they've been, fed 100 to-do list items. We need to be able to know and identify what are those action items outside the comfort zone that are going to make the difference for you. What are those things that are going to put you on the line where anything could happen, where it could be a failure, but it could also be an extraordinary success. And so it's exciting that that's kind of where I get to lead that conversation in there. And the feedback's amazing because it's like, okay, well, we can give you a plan, we can give you a strategy, but what's really coming through with a lot of our messaging, which is very similar to the podcast, is we always have to start with mindset first. And I just think that was something that I've obsessed about from the beginning, and I think people are really open to hearing it now. So it's exciting. And to bring an example from that to make this even more relevant is something I see in the context of launching, people, like I said earlier, trying to make this big splash in the marketplace where it's got to be perfect, otherwise it was a failure. And if you look at the progression of this program, I think one of the things that I feel very gifted, and I don't know if other people have this or not, is that when I come up with an idea, I can see the vision for it, several years out. And so Business by Design was an idea I had in 2013. I didn't have the name then, by the way. We should do an episode on how to come up with inspiring creative names, because I had the biggest block for the longest time around the name. I was like, I don't know why, but normally I don't care about names for my products. It's like one of my courses is called How to Outsource Your Videos.
Yeah. And then FB video ads.
FB video ads. Nailed it. However, this one I really wanted it to be something that was just like in neon lights for me. For 9 months, I then couldn't come up with the name. And when, by the way, ties it all in as well. When we finally, literally, I did contests with my team where I was going to give several $100 Amazon gift cards. I think we did $300 Amazon gift cards or something to the person that would come up with the name. I was trying to bribe my team to come up with the name for this product. I look back at that, I'm like, that was definitely not an effective strategy. We were taking words and thesauruses and matching them together and trying games and exercise, everything. And then months and months and months. And do you know when the name came to me?
No, but I remember your text message. But go ahead. When did it come to you?
It came to me as soon as I launched the first version, which was a beta, which we'll get into that in a second. And I said, okay, I'm doing this, and I'm going to take you guys through 8 weeks. And I had to go home once I let people know that I was going to be doing this. And I had to create the outline. And I sat down there, and Chelsea and I looked at the outline, and there was a moment where I was like, no, this first module, I want it to be all about goal setting and designing their business. It's going to be how to create your business by design. And then she's like, okay. And then blah, 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 blah. And I'm just I couldn't stop. I couldn't keep listening to her. I was just I was stuck at that line. I was like, oh, that's it right there.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, that's a good name. And I was like, no, not for the module, for the course. And all of a sudden, then she saw it. And so that's very fascinating that the name, the breakthrough didn't come until the action. I think that's what we're really trying to get through here, right? There's a huge message that we share on the podcast of being in the flow, of not trying to hustle, but there is beauty in the inspired action, the right action, doing the right things, that there isn't a correlation to how hard you work and how long you work to your success. Mm-hmm. But there is something to be said about the frequency in which you are willing to take that brave step outside of your comfort zone. That has nothing to do with level of difficulty or level of effort or level of energy expenditure. That has to do with level of courage and faith, right? Stepping out on a stage in front of 200, 500 people is not stressful, painful, exhausting, and the hardest work ever. It can be for someone who has been practicing and desires to do that, can be the most energy lifting and extraordinary experience they have, but they still have to take that courageous leap and step out onto that stage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, and one thing I did want to note is when you said that you had this vision of Business by Design 5 years down the road, and I'm definitely a visionary person as well, and I think specifically with my events, I was like, oh, I can see what this event looks like 2-5 years in the future, but I also then had to rein it back in and be like, well, yeah, I got to start with my first one though. And
yes.
who knows what's going to happen after the first one. And I'm completely detached from the outcome. I know, I'm trusting that it's going to be the best, but the best for right then and the best for those people. And then from there, it's going to start a new conversation. And that might be closer to the goal that I thought it was going to be, or it might be a little bit to the left, but just allowing for that to be okay is really important. So I just wanted to make note of that, because if somebody is listening and is like, well, I just want to launch this little thing, but I don't know what it looks like 5 years down the road, that's totally okay. And it all starts, that first email or that first Facebook post or whatever it looks like for what you're creating, I think is a really important step and kind of what we're trying to drive home here.
Yes. And so the evolution of Business by Design just in 2016 really follows suit to that, it was an idea for a while. This year, we did this thing that we now teach in the program called doing, a pre-release, a beta launch. And so it was just gather a group of founding members and create the course with them and give them an extraordinary experience. For the first few weeks, we just called it like James Wedmore's Sexy Beta Group. Like that was the name of the course, right? And that evolved, and I started listening to them and getting on the phone with them and talking to them on webinars, and that grew and that grew and that grew until we started to see what it really was. Like I just went in there going, I don't know what this thing is yet. I know what it is, but I don't. You know, it's like I see it, but I don't know what it is. I let it create itself. I let it take on a life of its own, if you will. And then we said, okay, that was in January, February, like March. And then in August, we said, it's time to just put this out here for the first time. And this is where I want to get to, is that I wasn't trying to make some huge splash. I wasn't trying to be like, this thing's got to make it and it's got to be amazing. The whole world's got to buy it. It's just like, hey, we're just going to put it out there for the first time. And we're just going to see what happens. And I went into it fully knowing. Now, it's a great distinction. I went into it with a level of, what would you call that? Like your class and taste of like, these are our standards. Like we have, as your business grows, you have an ability to raise the bar of your own personal standards. Like what passes your bar? That bar in our business keeps going. Like there was a time, and you know this, where I could just write an email, press send, and go. Now there's a time where someone a copywriter has to go through it, and then Chelsea or somebody has to proofread it. The grammar's got to be on point, all that type of stuff, right? The bar gets raised over time. And so obviously as we launched this, we wanted the quality bar to be at a certain level that met our expectations, but the results, the attachment to the results, the attachment of it having to be like a huge big splash, et cetera, was just not there. It was just like, this is important. We had to get the feedback. We had to take the action to learn what we needed to do. We saw all the quote-unquote mistakes that we made. I don't really even call them mistakes. It's just like, this is what's working, that's what's not. Just play the scientist. And we said, great, we're going to take the least amount of things that we need to do to fix that and try it again and just go a little bit more. And we are almost at the second day. It's not even the second full day. It's less than 48 hours. We're almost going to beat the last launch's numbers. From a week of cart open, we're doing that in a day and a half. So it's like, oh, so there's improvement, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're gearing up for a much bigger launch in about 5 to 6 months. Like I'm already planning that one out, right? That's already in the works. So there's an 18-month evolution right there. Stop trying to make this thing perfect the first time around, because that's impossible. It's the progress and the commitment to improvement and the feedback loop that you create with your customers and your prospects, the surveys, the results, all of that evolves. Let it evolve. Let it become its own thing and just let it take wings and fly. And that's what we really try to practice today, that it's like, it's not perfect, right? When we first started a beta group, it was, they had no name. It was not even perfect. It was nothing. But what was perfect was my commitment to the students. And that's huge, right? That if there's a commitment to excellence, there's a commitment to progress, there's a commitment to their success and their results, to delivering on the promises that you've made, then the rest will follow. I think that's the important piece. So with Phoebe saying, is my event going to have fireworks and, like ice sculptures and I'm just giving stupid examples of the ridiculous things that we start to build out to make it better. No. But
funny you say that. There were no.
It's funny you say that. I imagine male cocktail servers in Chippendale outfits walking around with chocolate covered strawberries and champagne. That's what I imagine a Phoebe Mroczek event. Is that about right?
That's what's coming in March.
That's March. So
ladies.
So this first event, we said no to the Chippendales.
Yeah.
But we said yes to the commitment and the promise, the level of presence that you brought. You were all in. You gave all of you at that point in time at that event, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what matters. And how easy is it to say, listen, ladies, this is my first event. So I'm excited to be here. This is my first event. Let's just set the expectations, address the elephant in the room. This is my first time doing this.
Yeah, and they were all just, you build it up in your head that they're like these ogres. And as soon as they started arriving from the airport, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier than I thought. They're just like I could not have picked a better group of people. They were so amazing and everyone just got along. Like, it was awesome. And I was telling you this right before we started recording, but I had a moment when we're wine tasting and we're all just like sitting around, and I walked over to one of the girls because I'm looking at everyone like laughing, and there's some business, some, parenting, some husband stuff. So just so much on the table. And then I looked at her, I was like, I nailed it. And she's like, you definitely did, because it was just like everything came together in such an amazing way. That, like, in my head, I'm like, it really couldn't have gone any better. Yeah, there are a couple things I would tweak for the next one, but for this specific one, it was perfect. Exactly the way it was.
Yes. Well done. Well done. So I hope you guys have learned something here today. I hope we've inspired something within you today. I hope it will encourage you, and courage is the operative word in there, to take that imperfect action that you have been procrastinating on. It's funny that entrepreneurship tends to also follow suit with people who are perfectionists, right? When we wear that as a badge of honor, yeah, I'm totally a perfectionist. I'd like to offer that perfectionism is just another form of procrastination. And as we all know, procrastination is fear. It just shows up differently. It doesn't show up as, like, I'm afraid. It shows up as procrastination. But we're procrastinating because we're afraid it won't be perfect. And ultimately, when there's a fear of it not being perfect, it's really a fear of people finding out that we're not enough, that we're not good enough. What beautiful opportunity and experience awaits you outside your comfort zone is the opportunity to realize that you are. Thank you guys so much for listening. The Mind Your Business podcast is back. More episodes coming your way. See you on the next one. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.